Today's episode sees our first ever interviewee, JP from the Ghost and Crown Instagram account. We discuss his enthusiasm for watches, what got him into collecting, what his favorite watches are. We even discuss his up-and-coming concierge service through his website that's still under construction. We even dabble a little bit in the controversial PayPal tax. And then we even go into discussing how the birth of his daughters has changed and developed his perception of the hobby. I'd also like to remind everyone to tag us, hashtag the Spring Bar Podcast, with your drink checks and wrist checks. Remember, the drinks don't have to be alcoholic, but you have to be fun. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Casey, and I'm joined by my good friends, Florida Mike and Joe in the OC. Gentlemen, how are you today?
Casey, how you doing? Joe?
What's up? How are we?
I'm a man of few words.
Well, I'm well. I'm well. But Casey, you are not in your regular locale, sir.
Yeah, no, I've commandeered a first sergeant's office. He doesn't even know I'm in here right now. So, making friends already.
Let's hope he's not watching the show when it drops.
I think that the soldiers are as nerdy as I, so I think we're good.
Alrighty. Shall we get into it, boys?
Get into it.
New watch alerts? Casey, do you have anything?
Oh, I had one, but then I got cold feet and chickened out. So I had soberly purchased the Rolex Explorer, and I had put in a cheeky bid or offer at $6,000. No box, no paper for a freaking 04 Explorer. And I was like, sweet, this is way under market. And then the seller gets back to me. He's like, hey, are you sure you might, do you want to cancel this? You still can. So I think he kind of regretted accepting the offer. But then I looked at my life and was like, $6,000 for a watch? Have I completely lost my mind? And so I said, yeah, please, for the love of God, cancel that before I get divorced. Yeah. So no new watch.
So you had the offer in for how long?
Oh, it was accepted. Like this.
Yeah, but
I had paid
how long
for it.
was it until he got back to you and said, would you want to cancel it?
Oh, it was within 24 hours.
Okay. So for that short amount of time, how did it feel to be a Rolex owner?
I was riddled with anxiety. So it was a terrible experience.
So had that gone through and you had that much anxiety just buying it, would you have actually worn it?
Ooh.
Not because that money would have gone from my, I have an X amount that I've saved up for, oh shit, hit the fan, and I couldn't justify taking it away from my family.
Yeah.
So I don't think I would have ever enjoyed it. With the Pelagos was 100% funded by my watch collection.
Right.
So I didn't feel guilty.
Right.
So the Pelagos, is that completely done now? That's paid off? All your watches completely funded?
Yeah, dude, I paid that off in 3 weeks. So Thank you, Watch Fam. That was clutch.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So, and it has a lovely parting gift. I got a Caravelle TV dial out of that.
Oh yeah, the poor man's Pelagos.
The poor man's Pelagos. I made a slight donation and I got a watch. You can't go wrong with that.
It's much appreciated.
Pelagos. Oh, that's beautiful.
All right, Joe, go ahead. What do you got?
I have a big haul. I've started the new year off right. So, first up, it is not a watch yet. It's maybe 50% of a watch, maybe 60% of a watch. I got parts. So I have that snorkel collection. I've got the green, the red, the blue. Well, this is the black. So there's that. I have the Monster Dial, Caravelle 666.
Mm-hmm. Which you stole that one.
Yeah, I got a really good deal on this, and it's on this really, really nice Tropic, so it works out pretty well. And then I've also got this pretty solid
Ah, yes, I like that one.
faded maroon dial. So that one's nice. And
Well,
then
hold on. You showed it, but for those that aren't watching, what were you holding up?
That's important.
what
Yep.
was I holding up?
What were you just holding up? You got to describe it, Joe. People can't see
Right,
through their car
for the
radios.
non-audio or
I'm
non-video
sorry.
guys.
This is the stick hands, stick second hand, double ordinal marker, Caravel 666, water resistant, with date, and the hooded lugs on a pseudo bullet bracelet aftermarket that's really, really, really janky.
So for
Joe, you're
those
cool
that,
enough without having to make up all these extra things for your watch, dude.
yeah.
Sorry,
So for those-
I needed to be precise.
for those that don't speak Joe, what that is, it's the Caravel Sea Hunter.
I was actually talking with the seller who, funnily enough, lives down the street. Not exactly, but he's the next town over. And he's like, "Yeah, I probably shouldn't have sold that."
Yeah,
And
no, he made a mistake.
He did. But my benefit now, the last one.
Okay, and he's
This-
holding up a bull of a box.
I'm holding up a bull of a box. I will not be showing the contents of the bull of a box until we are done. This is in prep for a future episode of Watch Mods.
So, are we going to talk about this real quick? Should we let everybody know what it is that we've been discussing?
The future episode of Watch Mods.
Of Watch Mods, yes. But KC, why are we? What are we doing? Because this was your idea.
Right. So this, I mean, I kind of was just shooting from the hip on this. But I built that Zin homage mod, and I really enjoyed it, and I knocked it out in maybe about an hour. And so, if simpletons such as myself can make a watch, anybody can. And it was just a lot of fun, and I kind of wanted to have that experience with my watch buddies here.
You just wanted to laugh at me from afar. That's what it boils down to. Which you know what? It's gonna be humorous. It's gonna be humorous. This
Joe, you have got a poor track record so far. You submitted a crappy watch for that Friday night watch fight.
Which again is my watch, so be careful what you say about it.
Your intro, your little setting up for your shoot, that was trash. So far, yeah.
Yeah.
This is your redemption shot. Don't put together some nasty Franken crap. But so I think we agree the
Joe.
budget
We
was like
love you,
100.
Joel.
I think it was like $150 is our budget. And you can take a pre-existing watch and change it, or you can go order all parts and build it from the ground up. So it'll be interesting to see what each one of our tastes turns into.
If it comes out right, you'll like it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm excited for mine too. I mocked mine up. It still has a long ways to go yet, but
I haven't even ordered parts yet.
I'm excited. So that's the thing, is we never really did set any kind of a deadline for it. So it's just
Well, I was
when
going
it's
to
ready, we'll talk about
that if I actually got that Rolex, because I literally could not afford the $150.
So now we can up the budget then, right?
Oh, hell no. I'm still saving up for that Rolex. One day I will own it, just not now.
Not today. All right, Mike, what do you got?
So I bought sort of a project as well, but I did keep in with my New Year's resolution, and I furthered my Jetstar collection. I bought this 1973. This is the Bulova Jetstar E.
Nice.
As you can see, it's a rectangular case. It's 38 by 41. A TV dial. It's hard to see on camera here. It does have a gradient dial. Starts dark gray at the top, kind of fades to a light gray at the bottom. The dial is pretty messed up. It almost looks like somebody tried to reseal it, recoat it with a clear paint, but they grabbed the hammer style paint can by mistake.
Oh,
because that's the kind of finish it has to it. It's not a nice finish by any stretch.
It kind of got hit by the ugly stick.
It kind of did, yeah. But what it has going for it is it does have, as I'm looking at it, the original bracelet for it,
Yeah.
which needs to be restored. That's the easy part. It does not have the original clasp, and it does not have the original crown. However, whoever replaced these two pieces at least had sense enough to use Bulova stamped pieces.
Right.
So it is a Bulova signed crown, and it is a Bulova signed bracelet. It does have the Accutron tuning fork on the bracelet. I don't know if you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to tell. So it's not just generic stuff. It actually is Bulova signed items. But this is one that these don't come up very often. They're kind of hard to come by. They're usually extremely expensive because they're in better shape than what this one is. So I got this one for a great deal. But it's probably going to be a long time before I find a replacement dial for it. But in the meantime, it is what it is. It could probably use a service, but it keeps excellent time, really good time. I'm surprised. So that's what I've got. So I think that's Jetstar number 5.
Yeah.
So we're slowly but surely getting there.
Would you say that's the hardest one to find?
It's one of the hardest ones. I was doing a little bit more research on the Jetstar line, and I'm still finding models that I didn't even know existed. So, and ones that I haven't even seen come up for sale on eBay. So I think there's a couple other ones that are.
There's a white dial, and I want to say there's like a rectangular white as well.
So there's a rectangular white. There's a rectangular blue. The blue I have seen.
I've seen.
Never seen a white one for sale. Never seen a white one outside of a couple of images online. So I don't know. Was that a prototype version? Maybe is that a? I don't know.
It's hard to say because all of the information's gone, man. The information.
Yeah, I know. But it's the thrill of the hunt. That's what it is, and that's what I love about it. So. Yeah, so that's what I got. That's my only one. I can't afford multiple watches like Joe.
Oh, that high-paid teacher's salary.
Nor can I afford to own a Rolex for 24 hours.
Yeah, exhilarating.
Exhilarating, he says. Well, so what do we got on stock for today?
Gentlemen, this is so we had talked about when we first started the show, we wanted to kind of give a voice to other Instagram accounts. So some of these collectors, these enthusiasts who have great stuff to show online, but maybe you've never really heard their story before. Today we have our first special guest. I would very excitedly like to introduce JP at Ghost and Crown. Buddy, how you doing?
There he is.
Holy cow.
Gentlemen, I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor and a privilege to be among you misfits. So
that is exactly where you're at. And I'm excited to have somebody other than these two to talk to. Maybe we can actually get some real watch talk going on around here. Who knows?
I doubt that very much, but I'll do my best.
We'll give it a go. It's customary around here, JP, that we start off with wrist and drink checks. Since you are our guest of honor, why don't you get us kicked off? Tell us what you're wearing or what you're drinking tonight.
Well, guest of honor might be stretching it just a little bit, but sure, I'll start with the wrist check for you all. I'm not gonna lie, I agonized over the watch that I was gonna wear tonight for way more than I care to admit. In fact, I've been talking about it with my wife for most of the week, and in the end, there was actually really only one choice. So what I have on tonight is a mid-1960s Tissot Seastar automatic dress watch. Most people know that watch as a dive watch in the modern incarnation, but it's gone through a whole bunch of different variants over the years. Some folks are familiar with the Seastar 7 or the T12. They've had Lemania powered chronographs. This one is one of the original variants, which is happens to be a dress watch. Pretty innocuous start for that line, but I've always been charmed by it. It's got a beautiful kind of blue sunray dial, very narrow handset, and it's got almost like a graphite colored applied logos on it, which I was so charmed by it. And what makes this particular one special to me is that when my twin daughters were born earlier this year, or well, I guess this past year. My wife had it engraved with their names and birthday.
Oh, how cool is that?
This is a sentimental one, and it didn't work for most of the time, but it just got back from my watchmaker friend, and it is now keeping perfect time again.
What
So-
is it? Automatic battery?
It's automatic. I off the top of my head couldn't tell you the caliber, but it runs smoothly. It doesn't have any shock protection, so I tend to be pretty careful with it.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it right now on your Instagram page, and that is gorgeous. Do you still have it on that rally strap?
I do, yeah. I have it on this. It's
Yeah.
just a simple Rios brown leather rally strap that I don't know,
That's
just
nice.
kind of fit that old school vibe that I was looking for.
Nice.
Very cool. So what's in your cup?
Oh, in the cup. Well, in the can for now.
All right.
So another hard choice that I agonized over. This is Pitter Patter. It's an American porter by a local brewery owned by a friend of mine up here in Vermont. And well, seeing as the temperature here is now at 3 degrees Fahrenheit with a wind chill of about -20 and is only going to get colder from here this weekend, it's a nice
Delicious.
dark American porter. So in keeping with the climate, I'll pour that out and I'll be enjoying some nice hearty dark drinks tonight.
There you go.
Excellent.
Nice. Yeah. Ooh, look at that. That's road tar. Holy cow.
Oh yeah, some engine oil for you.
You got
Yeah,
the
yeah,
forking
exactly.
knife so you can actually get some off. And
Yeah, I should. I just cut the head right off. So how about you fellas? What do we got on tonight?
Joe, what you got?
I am wearing the 1940s, 1950s Bulova chronograph.
Oh, is that dirty watch?
Shut up. It's got patina for days. It's known as
Okay.
either the sportsman or the airman, depending upon which style bracelet or strap you have it on. I believe the bracelet version will be the sportsman and a leather strap would be the airman. This is on a vintage Forstner strap, and it's got this killer patina. Mike calls it dirty. You can see the radium burn on it. It's got a Valju 23 movement inside. It's a favorite. I love it.
So what it is when a watch is on my wrist, it's dirty, but when it's on your wrist, it's patina. Is that what we're going with?
Yes, because it's worth more in Scrabble that way.
Gotcha. Okay.
Very, very
All right.
important.
Moving
And
on.
I will be drinking this evening Smoke Wagon, a bourbon out of Las Vegas.
Well, hold that bottle up again. You're not drinking much, are you?
Well, I've already had some,
Oh, okay. All right.
and if I run out, I'm okay.
Oh, all right. Fair enough.
I
Good.
literally have backup.
Gotcha. KC.
As part of my New Year's resolution, and because I'm training up for sapper school, off the sauce. So
A dry
Because-
January.
alcohol and military training tend not to go well together. But this is sauce I've been on for the last couple hours as I drove in to my new unit to prep up for a potential storm we're going to have here. So I'm coming down on caffeine right now. I'm jittery a little bit. But as we discussed last weekend when I was at my regularly scheduled drill, this is extra credit. And I always tell people, if you join the guard thinking it's 1 week in a month, you've been lied to. But as I spoke last weekend about how if you're in a line unit, I expect you to have a digital watch, because the line unit, you're running missions and I'm going to expect second accuracy from you. Up higher, a battalion like that, you can run analog because it's not as important. But this is my Casio ProTrek. This camera is garbage, but it's a massive watch, and it's got solar, you name it. It's got a compass, barometer, and it's all titanium. And this is my gift from my father for commissioning. So it's got my date of commissioning, and then it's inscribed from my mom and dad. So it's pretty cool. And one thing I like is it can tell you when dusk and dawn is, which is important for planning combat-related missions, not necessarily humanitarian, but so that's pretty good to have.
So that's kind of like Casio's version of the T-Touch.
The what?
the Tissot T-Touch. The Tissot T-Touch gives you a lot of information like that too. So that's
I've never checked it out.
no, yeah,
I'll
that's pretty
work.
cool.
Then so
All
there's
right.
Mike.
So if I would have known that JP was wearing a Tissot, I probably would have worn mine too. But I am wearing my I'm wearing the other version of
There it is.
Joe's watch.
Nice.
So I do
I like
have
that a lot.
the Caravelle Sea Hunter, the West Germany. This is the Fume dial version. And this is
The
on
superior yet again. Mike has the superior watch.
because it's West German.
I'm gonna need more to drink.
You guys fight dirty.
Yeah. So this is on an MKS Monkey Swag. There's a sailcloth strap. This is with the gray contrast stitching, which I think goes quite well with both the Fume dial and the stainless steel case.
True story. Okay, true story about that watch. Mike was ready to sell it. Mike was ready to sell it to me. I was gonna buy it, and then we started talking about strap choices. And it was, what was it on? It was on some.
So it came on. It was on a Bear, actually what appeared to be a new old stock vintage Bear bracelet, and it's a very cool bracelet. And I have it on another watch. It looks great on my Matthew Tissot Pepsi watch.
Yeah.
But on this particular Sea Hunter, it did not go well, and I did not get that connection. I didn't have that fall in love moment with it. So I was talking with Joe and said, I don't think it's going to stay very long. And I asked him if he wanted it, and he jumped at the chance for it. And he said, before you do that, try changing the straps out. So I put it on a couple of different things, and I came across the sailcloth strap that I had, and I put it on there, and that was it.
It pops.
That was
What a guy.
See? It makes all the difference in the world, though.
It makes all the difference in the world.
It's phenomenal what a new strap will do.
So I think what we'll do for the video portion is maybe we can put up two pictures. We'll put up the picture with the original bracelet.
Oh yeah.
And we'll put up the picture with the strap, and then y'all can make up your mind. Let us know which one you like better.
There we go.
Yeah, leave a comment down, and maybe we can tally up the pros versus cons there.
There you go.
And then somehow bash Joe. We'll have to turn into a joke.
Yeah. Enjoy your monster, Casey.
In typical fashion,
there it
gotta
is.
get that pour. So I am drinking something that was partially inspired by Joe. This is Golden Road Brewing Company Mango Cart. The side of the can reads, a series inspired by the iconic fruit cart vendors of Los Angeles. This is a mango wheat ale.
Frescas.
So this is actually, it's a light beer. It tastes fantastic, very full of flavor. I enjoy it. I bought a 6-pack a couple days ago. I think these are my last two. So,
well earned.
Yeah.
Well earned.
All right.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Gonna need more.
There's the bottle of water. There you go. So, shall we get into it?
Proceed, sir.
Sounds great.
So, JP, Ghost and Crown, you are the guinea pig to be in our first interviewee. Why don't we get started by talking a little bit about yourself? I guess the first question would be, what do you consider yourself in the world of watches? Are you a collector or are you an enthusiast?
Is addict an option?
Always.
Yes, that's a great option too.
Well, I'm definitely that. So impulse control problems aside, which I can tell I'm in good company on that front. This is more like a support group at this point.
Yep.
I do collect, and I have a lot of sentimental attachment to my collection, but for me, it's not necessarily the act of owning the thing. It's really, I like learning about it. I like, discovering new like-minded people. I like discovering new watch brands I've never heard of. Especially, I love the just huge explosion in the micro brand scene over the last few years. There's a lot of creativity going on there. I don't look at them as investments, but so I guess, yeah, long story short, I would consider myself an enthusiast who happens to collect extensively.
Who happens to collect obsessively.
excessively.
Is unboxing kind of a key though? Like that whole that do you track the package and that's the anticipation, or is it the hunt rather than the reception?
Ooh, it's a little bit of both. I mean, there's definitely that dopamine rush when you're hunting something, and
Yes.
and frankly, we'll talk a little bit more about the Ghost and Crown operation, but that's one of the reasons that I kind of got into that is because I can just kind of fulfill that need constantly. Um, but for me, there's a little bit of that hunt, that search for something special that really speaks to you. And so
Hmm.
I know exactly what you were talking about, Mike, when you're saying like you got the watch and it didn't really resonate the way you'd hoped it did. When you hype something up in your mind, and it doesn't quite match that expectation. Luckily, in your case, you could kind of turn that around.
Hmm.
But there is also the appreciation of it as, I guess, a piece of art to me. I mean, I'm primarily an
Yes.
aesthetic watch collector. I'm not necessarily um, a movement nerd. I'm not necessarily looking for specific references. I mean, occasionally I go down that rabbit hole, but most of the time for me, it's just something that really pops. Um, and that's sort of the journey that I've kind of been on over the years.
So, if you're an aesthetic collector, do you have a particular type of watch that you like to go after, or are you just kind of all over the board?
Definitely the latter. If you spend any time on my Instagram feed, it's a huge mix. I mean, there are a good number of dress watches. For someone that historically said I don't dive, so I don't really need a tool watch. I have a lot of dive watches.
Nice.
It just kind of fell down that into the design style because it's such a unique language. When you
Hmm.
move from watch type to watch type. I've got some sport watches. I don't currently have any chronos. I don't think I had one that was just such a bad experience. It's one of the few real regrets that I've ever had that I've kind of it left such a bad taste that I haven't gone back to that well. But so it's really all over the map. And again, it's more of, hey, what is it that really resonates with me? Be it a dial design, case design, some unique flourish, or something else about the watch or the brand.
So, I guess that said, then it doesn't. You're not a vintage guy over a modern guy because again, looking through your stuff, you have a little bit of both as well.
Yeah, it's probably split. It's not quite down the middle, but it's a good mix of both. And
So,
again, it comes down to that story.
um, so you said you have, it seems like you kind of lean more towards the dress watches. Is that because you think they're more attractive or there's more of an opportunity for them to be more of an art form?
That's a really good question. I guess I haven't really thought about it in those terms, but yeah, I mean, there's a, I guess, a simplicity to a good dress watch and almost a purity where there isn't a lot going on. So it's almost like, well, I'm trying to stay on theme here, so it's almost like drinking a good pilsner. You can
Oh,
hide a lot of carelessness in a complicated beer, but if you're making something really simple and really clean, you have to do it right. And so for me, that kind of concept of the dress watch is, it's also versatile. You can get a dress watch with some water resistance and that you can kind of knock around a little bit. Um, in a previous, life, I spent a lot of time in a suit, and so having a watch that would disappear into that. And so a lot of my older watches were very kind of understated, and only recently have I kind of really gotten more, I don't know, flamboyant with it, I guess.
so okay,
So,
for a dress watch, where do you fall on the seconds hand?
Hmm.
Center
Do you mean like
seconds,
do I want a sub dial?
center seconds, small seconds, no seconds.
I tend to like a thinner seconds.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, again, I like a good three-hander, I guess is what it really comes down to. And if I had my choice, no date.
yeah, I'm with you there. I think
Yeah.
a dress watch. Not that there's anything wrong with any of the designs that there is, but I'm a three-hander. That's your pretty classic design. But talking watches as art forms, you have, and I'm probably going to say the name wrong. Is it Margaret?
Magret. Yep.
Magret. Okay. So if nobody has seen this watch that he has, go look at his Instagram at Ghost and Crown. Look up this watch because it has got some amazing case engraving.
Yeah.
Now, is that the way that it comes from the factory, or is that something that you had done?
Yeah, so Magret is an awesome micro brand out of New Zealand that's been around, I think, since maybe 2015ish or so. And I'll hold the watch up here. I know you guys can find probably a higher resolution shot, but you can see some of that case engraving. It's Maori inspired designs, and it's actually done by an engraver in Christchurch, New Zealand, who they send it to
Wow.
after, and then they bring the case back and assemble the watch. And they do a number of these kind of limited editions, and that is one where, full disclosure, I try to set a reasonable budget for myself. It's a little bit fluid. And I saw that thing. Yeah, it flexes here and there. It's a flex budget, and I just couldn't get that watch out of my mind. And it's so beautiful, and you put it under a macro lens, and you just explore from one edge of the case to the other.
Yeah, the detail is just phenomenal on that case.
Could you put a price range if you don't want to actually put out the real expense? What would it take for me?
Yeah, so I wrote a review of this particular watch too, previously, which is kind of how I also got into this, was wanting to really communicate the content, and that review is up on the timebum.com. So the base watch, which is this, still pretty sleek, kind of cushion case diver, the Waterman is the name of the model, the Moana Pacific, retails for, I don't know, somewhere between $600 and $800. Pretty solid. It's got a Swiss Solita movement. You take it to the engraver, Andrew Biggs in Christchurch, and all of a sudden you add a couple grand to that price tag. Easy.
Yeah.
And to me, it is, I mean, it's done by hand. This is not laser etched. It's not stamped. He's hand engraving each of these things. They only make a handful of each edition.
Nice.
And for me, that was, I talk about the art collection piece of it, and that's really what this one is to me.
Yeah, that's what that is. So did they say how many hours is involved in doing that case? Did they tell you that?
I don't believe so. That is a great question, and I'm sure they'd be happy to provide that info. The nice thing about dealing with some of these. Yeah, absolutely. I can reach out. The micro brands are great to talk to. You get such a personal relationship and personalized service from these folks.
So yeah, if you happen to get that information from them, let us know, and then we'll make a post about it on our page and just kind of highlight that watch, because it's beautiful. Like I say, if you guys haven't seen it, we'll get a picture of it for you guys.
I stalked your page a little bit to try to know a little about you. That's
JP.
What's that? I'm sorry. Do you want me to call it recon?
You can call it whatever you want, but now he's getting FaceTime with stalkers. That's all I'm saying. You put a face behind the likes.
Hey, you know what? Your taxpayers go to funding stalking of other people all the time. So, but so it required a watch that was capable of 500 meters because of the material, I imagine.
Yeah, that and the heavy duty gasketing. It is a big watch, especially for me. I have pretty slender wrists, and this thing is about 15 millimeters tall. It's 42 millimeters, so it's not huge, especially compared to yours, Casey. But it is big, and there's a pretty heavy duty gasketing in there. The funny thing of it is it of course comes, it's on a leather band stock. It did come with a Tropic style, but the thing is, I don't think I could justify even doing the dishes with this thing, because I wouldn't want to tarnish any of that engraving,
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a weird one because it doesn't fit into any of the buckets we talked about.
Yeah, but right. So we're talking though. This is technically a diver.
Technically, and I know your feelings on divers on leather are well known, but so I don't want to trigger you.
A little bit.
Ooh,
It's okay. I've got medicine.
Let's just not get into whether or not that watch has been to the moon. That's another hot topic. So I think we kind of jumped ahead of ourselves a little bit. How long have you been collecting? How long have you been into this?
Well, I've been obsessed with watches since I was a little kid. I think I had a Casio calculator watch when I was younger. I think my first one that I was really excited to show off was a Star Fox watch that I got out of a Cinnamon Toast Crunch. You send in the barcodes and they send it to you after you eat 20 boxes and make yourself
awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could actually play a little rudimentary video game on it. But the first real watch that I had, and again, it was a total obsession moment for me, and I still have it. Actually, I'll hold it up here. It's 1997ish, I think. Seiko Kinetic. I don't know the exact model number, but this was for me sort of almost a religious experience, honestly. I remember the commercial to this day, and the tagline was, if you're going to make electricity, use it, because it's similar to an automatic, except instead of winding the mainspring, it has a capacitor in there, which unfortunately doesn't really hold much of a charge anymore. It'll run if I wear it, but it doesn't do much more than keep a great time. But
I'm super nerdy on the AGS and Kinetics. I have had multiple, sold a couple. I even have one of the stupid chargers that I paid way too much for. I regret that deeply.
That was my entry drug too. That I've got a Bulova Kinetic that's similar, and there's something to that.
It
Yeah,
was a
it's
special
not-
watch. It still is.
It's not as
And I-
blasphemous as a pure quartz. It's it's a hybrid.
Yeah, and I never got into the kinetics. I guess I don't get the fascination of it. They're cool, don't get me wrong, and I'm not saying anything bad about them, but for whatever reason, they just never struck me as anything that I'd want to get into. I don't know.
Well, and they've certainly never really caught on in any major way. They're always
No.
kind of more of a novelty,
Yeah.
which is fine. And I know I could get the capacitor repaired and send it to somebody, but the fact is that the style is a little bit different than what I typically wear today. So for me, it's more the sentimental value. It's like
Are you saying
totem.
it's dated? Little dated?
Well, it's ironic that you say that because, of course, here I'm wearing this watch from the 1960s that feels just as current today, aside from
But-
maybe being a little
but see,
small.
that's-
Some things don't age well.
That's a design aesthetic, I mean, this
Yep.
this is from the 40s. It's just as good now as it is then. So,
Yeah, but
a really well designed watch, it's gonna stand that test. And
Yeah.
you look at what we were talking about the dress watches. We're talking about the dive watches. That design language just really hasn't altered. It hasn't changed too much. There's a reason for that.
And you have your mechanical movements, which have stood the test of time, no pun intended. And your quartz, I mean, has been around since the 70s and will remain, far into the future. But the kinetic is very much of its time.
Yes.
Is when you talk kinetic, you're talking a 90s watch, and it kind of lived and died in that era. Whether or not the design of it is a modern design or something a little of that era as well. It's just that's where it lives. So let's get into your concierge service. Now, again, if you look at your Instagram account, it says Watch Concierge, and I think you had kind of made mention that's where the name Ghost and Crown comes into play. So real quick, what does Ghost and Crown mean?
That's great. In terms of the origin of the name, that's a fun one to answer because no one's ever asked me that before. For me, it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but it really comes from the sentimentality of watches. The ghost element of bringing back nostalgia, bringing back a past era, the timelessness of it, and the fact that it can frankly be kind of a haunting experience. And then crown is obviously the fact that it, there's an elegance to it, and it can kind of make you feel elevated about yourself, but also there's a crown on a watch. So I was having a little bit of fun with it.
There you go. So
Deep, man, deep.
I'm a
So
deep
what-
kind of guy.
yeah, Watch Concierge, it seems kind of self-explanatory, but is it a little deeper
don't
than that?
know.
Kind of give us a rundown of what exactly is it you do.
Sure. Yeah, happily. So, it's a little bit of backstory maybe first is I never really sought or set out to become anything with this. For me, it was actually always a kind of solitary hobby. I collect a watch, I wear it on my wrist. Nobody knows what it is. I don't have people walking up to me and saying, oh, that Maigret is so cool. If they comment on it, it's because they see that it looks neat or it's a little unusual, but nobody is really, it's not a flex. That said, I've always kind of been that guy to people. If someone's trying to buy a new car, they check with JP. If someone's trying to get a new computer, they check with JP. And I'm a product manager by trade. So I spent a lot of my time digesting specifications, looking at the features, looking at the markets, and determining what are the best products to, buy and sell for a particular use case. And then my kind of personal passion for watches translated into folks noticed, occasionally a friend or an acquaintance, or they'd even refer someone and say, hey, can you help me find a watch? I don't know where to start. And so that sort of gravitated towards starting to think, well, there are a lot of people who find watches attractive, but maybe intimidating. Especially if you start really getting into it, you can be overwhelmed by information. You think, oh, Rolex is simple or Bulova is simple, but you were just talking about the Jetstar earlier and how many different models you can discover and go down that rabbit hole. So for me, a lot of it is not just selling a watch to somebody, but kind of establishing that relationship and making it accessible and fun. That's really what it comes down to me, because I think everybody should be able to have a watch regardless of their budget, regardless of their, knowledge of it. There's a watch for them, maybe several.
So what's your, and do you have a lot of repeat business?
There it is.
I've had some. I think we're just getting off the ground. So as far as repeat business goes, it's more general interest. But really for me, what it tends to be and what feels really rewarding is when someone comes to me that doesn't know a darn thing about watches, but wants to learn and wants to get something special for someone they care about or wants to start their collection. And then I've had a few folks that, have been searching and they don't know where to start as far as vetting dealers on the internet or anything like that, and so they're looking for somebody to help kind of de-risk that for them and kind of do the legwork so that they can get something that they really can trust.
Okay, so let's get into the process then. So somebody comes to you and says, JP, let's just say I don't have a watch. I've been buying things from Walmart, but I really want to have something that's a quality piece, something that will last me a while. What do you do with that kind of a customer? Where do you take them?
Yeah, well, it varies a little bit based on their background and knowledge, but most of the time they'll engage with me either through Instagram or through an email to the company email address. And then from there, we sort of say, okay, well, what is it you're looking for? And that can be done in whatever medium they're comfortable with. I've done video chats, I've done phone calls. A lot of it's just done via email. And then I'll send them kind of a questionnaire that they can answer. And it goes from very basic questions about, basic style, dial colors, material, whether they want leather strap, metal bracelet, etc., all the way into more complex questions for folks that are a little more experienced and have a very specific thing they're looking for, like someone that wants a lollipop seconds hand. That sort of thing we can get into. And then obviously if they have a specific watch, that's a shortcut to getting the answer. And then from there, depending on how narrow or specific it is, if I find the right thing, I'll get an authorization agreement to purchase so that I've taken some of the risk out of myself. There's a small deposit for the legwork to do that. And that kind of scales with the kind of price bracket of the watch. Obviously, a vintage luxury watch is going to have a different service fee than, an entry level pocket watch or, an older quartz or something like that. And then from there, if it's a specific one, I'll make the purchase. I'll bring it in, do a quality inspection. Sometimes folks want kind of additional services like engraving, or they want like a replacement crystal or something. And for that, I have some folks I work with. And if it's not quite so easy, what I'll often do is find some options at different price points that kind of meet their budget and their interest level. And then we'll walk through a simple presentation and kind of gauge their interest, and then we'll pick the right one for them. Ultimately, I want them to have a watch they can trust and that'll work and that they can count on.
Are you doing all this virtually? Are you doing this in person? COVID is a weird space that we're all living in.
Yeah, almost none of my clients are local or anywhere even close to me.
Okay.
So almost its entirety has been virtual, which is kind of nice because you get to meet people and interface with folks you would never meet otherwise, like
Do you
yourself.
send them like a lookbook? Do you send them just Instagram shots? How do you get them to interact with your choices per se?
Yeah, I mean, I'll actually prepare like a formatted presentation that I'll walk through with them in like a slideshow format in a video call, or just send it to them via email if that's easier for them, and then they can digest it at their leisure. For me, it's really important. I'm not pushing a specific watch. Again, I don't want this to be something that they feel they got stuck with. We've all had regrets. I'm sure we've all bought watches or landed on something that we were super stoked about, and then we've regretted it ever since. I never want that to be the case. And I'm not just looking to make a quick buck. I've had to turn folks down. Actually, I had a particular gentleman recently. It kind of broke my heart because he'd been saving up for a specific Rolex reference for quite some time. But the way the market has been lately, he hasn't saved up enough. And he set this deadline in his mind and said, I got to have it. What can you do? And he started sending me links to resellers online, some of whom are not bad necessarily, but what they're selling is not what he should be buying. Not in that I think it's a counterfeit necessarily, but at the price point he was looking at, I couldn't guarantee a working watch that would be, it's something that he could rely on for years to come. And so in the end, I said, now's not the time to buy it. I'm not looking to just take your money, wait. And if you can be patient, let's come back to it when things maybe calm down or when you've got maybe a different idea in mind.
So that makes me wonder. So we had talked about in a previous episode, kind of getting into vintage watches and the things that you should be expecting when you're buying a vintage watch. And one of the talking points was buy knowing that it's going to have to be serviced. So when you're looking to buy something for somebody, are you looking for a watch that is ready to go, right when you purchase it? that's already been serviced, that's already had the little things done to it, or are you buying something and then letting them know, say, hey, be prepared, because even if we find what it is that you're looking for, it will need to be serviced once it's in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. The latter. An education is a big part of it for me. And in fact, the website that we're in the process of getting up and running is going to be divided between the actual concierge service and, setting up a consultation, shopping the selection, and learning about it. Because for the accessibility piece is so important to me. I had another client, a quick story I'll share. She had no experience with watches, but she wanted an Art Deco pocket watch for her husband to wear at their wedding, because they were having an Art Deco themed wedding in the middle of COVID. And obviously this was like a mission to me, where I was like, I cannot disappoint this woman. The good news, she had the flexible timeline. I do not believe in rushing this process. If someone comes to me and says, hey, I need a cool watch in 2 weeks, your selection is going to be very limited and your guarantees are going to be non-existent. So I try to guide people away from that.
No, you're getting
in this case,
you're done.
Yeah, right. let's go to.
I honestly was just about to say that.
And so in this case, I did have to educate and say, look, we're looking at something period appropriate, 1920s. We're talking about a movement that needs to be serviced, that you have to treat carefully. You can't be shaking it around and treating it like a modern one. And the client was very receptive to that, and in the end was absolutely thrilled with the choice. And that to me was, more fulfilling than a payday, was getting something into the hands of someone that probably wouldn't have been able to fulfill that, or at least not with that kind of certainty. But yeah, that was took a bit of explaining that, hey, this is going to need to be serviced periodically if you want to keep using it. That's not something most people do take into account. And the reason I like to insure a working watch up front, admittedly, if there's an inspection and we find something minor, we can deal with it, cracked crystal or something like that. But I don't want to turn it into a sinkhole for any client where they've paid up front for a watch. We have the caveat of, if it needs service, we're going to service it. And then suddenly you're finding, oh, you need a new mainspring, you need a new cannon pinion, everything's trashed, you need a new gear train. And now it's not even the same watch anymore. So there's kind of that balance to be struck with the novices.
Will you be a kind of a one-stop shop, so somebody can buy something from you, and then a couple years down the line, when it does need service, they can get back in touch with you and say, hey, this watch is ready to be serviced now. Maybe it's not running and keeping its time as well as it did when I first bought it. And you'll kind of take that and go through the channels needed to have that serviced for them?
Yeah, I'm certainly open to that. I mean, I do obviously work with a number of folks. I don't service them myself. I want to be clear. I can do an inspection and a cleaning, but anything more complex than that, I want to leave to the pros. I want to leave to someone who's actually, a licensed horologist or something like that to do properly. Again, because of my commitment to the quality. Oh, what was that, Joe?
Know your lane, know your role.
I'm on the business and the ideas and the talking side of it. I know my lane. So doing things with my hands, not that great.
So let's talk business real quick. And one more thing before we move on to another question. I'm going to call it the quote unquote PayPal tax. That has just been the biggest story right now. And for those who are listening, that maybe are not into buying and selling watches and don't really know what we're talking about, I'll just describe it real quick. In years prior, up until now, you were able to sell watches. You could make 200 sales up to $20,000 per year and not have to report it to the IRS. Or I should say, the IRS wouldn't come knocking on your door asking you, what's been going on. You don't have to justify it to them. Exactly. Now it's gone to a ridiculously low number. It's $600 limit spread over how many ever purchases. So you can do 6 $100 sales. You can do 1 $600 sale. But once you hit that number, you got to start justifying, your profits that you're making on selling these watches.
However, it does come down to only profit. But
it comes down to only profit. So your losses, you don't have to.
It's like all.
And
profit.
That's the other thing too, is you need to start keeping track of everything that you're buying. Keeping your original invoices, your receipts, or whatever. Even if you bought something 2 years ago and you want to sell it and you're making $50 profit on it, and you don't remember what you paid for it, you have to make an educated guess as to what you paid for it versus what you sold it for. I mean, it's going to be I don't think the IRS is ready for what's
No.
going to unfold, when this all, comes into play. Um, so now, taking all that in consideration, that extremely low number, is that going to affect you? I mean, do you purchase these watches and then essentially resell them to your customer, or are they the ones that are buying? I mean, where does this fall in the realm of what you do, and how is this going to affect you from here on?
I mean, there's no question that there's an effect on me and the way I operate. Most of the time, because I'm brokering a deal, and that's the purpose of it. Either I'm buying and reselling the watch to the person after the inspection, or I'm making the connection between them and a watchmaker that they want to work with. Obviously, it's going to hit me. I'm looking at this though as a business, so I'm tracking all of those transactions anyway. I think where we're going to see the impact and the ripple effect is more on the folks that maybe aren't as rigorous about that. You mentioned the keeping your receipts and having to understand how you operate this. A lot of this is, I don't want to say it's penalizing folks who are trying to, make things work in the pandemic or anything, but there's no question that it's affecting folks that are just trying to, I don't know, get out from under something. And they're not necessarily thinking about, am I taking a hit on this, or am I making a small profit? And then how do I, tax it? And I've seen that already, actually, in that a couple sellers I've been reaching out to are asking me, how that works. And, I didn't get my MBA in tax law. I got it in, let's say BS and alcoholism. So it's a little bit of difference.
You're in the right place.
Yeah, right. So, I'm trying to provide that guidance and give them those assurances, but ultimately, yeah, they have to track this stuff. And it is a new onerous level of bureaucracy that they're going to have to contend with. And I do think that's going to maybe make some folks think twice about engaging in this that might before have been like, hey, this is fun. Let me just dip my toes in it.
Well,
So do you think, no, go ahead.
the things that I've been reading, everyone's saying, like, if you can keep a ledger, even just as simple as keeping a ledger, that can help. But if you've got auditors breathing down your neck, it doesn't really matter at that point. Receipts or not, you're still gonna have to justify what you're doing, and they've got the receipts at that point. So you're still kind of screwed. But even just as much as keeping's okay, I purchased the watch at this time, I paid this much, I'm gonna sell it years later at this time. That will probably suffice, because we're not talking for the hobbyist. I think about what we do. You've got a business; it's a little bit different. For what the rest of us do, I'm not flipping watches. I'm getting rid of things that no longer bring me joy. I am doing the Marie Kondo moment.
So that kind of leads me into another question is, so you're going and buying these watches from people that are selling them, probably because they're pieces that don't bring them joy anymore. Do you think that the selection you're going to have to choose from is going to go down based on people are going to be afraid to sell stuff now?
Sure. I mean, potentially, if assuming they're fluent on the topic. I think, and the folks I buy from, it's a bit of a mix. Sometimes, yes, it's a private seller, just as you described. Sometimes it's a dealer or a watch shop. Again, the nice thing about working online for a lot of this is you can meet up with folks in the Netherlands or in New Zealand who can help you with the deal, provided you figure out customs and shipping in advance and don't get bitten by that. Luckily, that's something I'm familiar with. So that is obviously a concern, and there may very well be some constraint in the selection, and again, what people are willing to put up. So time will tell. We'll see. But I can tell you, it's certainly happening.
Yeah. So, all right. Later on in the show, we'll have you kind of tell us where people can get a hold of you, and if they want to go down that route with you, and have you find them something to wear, maybe a new heirloom piece for them. So kind of along the same lines of heirloom pieces, you had mentioned you're a new dad. You have twins. Congratulations, or I'm sorry.
I'll take both, but thank you. No, it's been wonderful. It's an educational process, but I wouldn't trade it for anything.
So I don't know. Did you say you have two girls?
Yep, twin daughters. That's right.
So, do you plan on getting them involved in the watch hobby?
I would love to. If you you'll occasionally see on my Instagram account little tiny hands grubbing all over the crystals. Right now, obviously, they're only they're less than a year old, so for them it's just another shiny thing that maybe moves a little bit. But I would love for them to take an interest in it alongside me, just to have something to talk about and engage in, and maybe even work on them together.
So, hang on. Harley
That
named.
burrito's coming back to haunt you, isn't it?
So my question would be, what have you earmarked for them? Because now recognizing the fact that you have two, which means you either got to get two of the same or something comparable. What do you got?
Yeah, that's that's an expensive question. When I look at my collection, because it's so diverse, I can also kind of have them pick and choose what speaks to them. I will say one thing I've done is for their first birthday, I bought them each a matching birth year watch that actually matches one I got their mom for our anniversary. And so I would love to give those to them when they're older, provided they want them. Just don't tell them that I did that. It's still a surprise.
That'll be.
Yeah.
So you already purchased the watches?
I did, yeah. That impulse control problem again. I couldn't resist.
And what are they?
You want me to spoil their birthday surprise here for you? Well, you know what? Because you guys are so cool.
It's 10 after 8. They're in bed now, right?
They are. Thankfully,
Okay.
long in bed.
You're in a good place then.
So, I mentioned that I'm wearing that Tissot Sea Star. I don't know what it is. Something about Tissot has always kind of spoken to me as one of those Swiss brands with a lot of heritage, but it's not like in this luxury stratosphere. So it's they're the Le Locle automatics with the kind of really traditional dials, but the smaller diameter case. And I actually have one in the larger. I think it's 39 millimeters, 40 millimeters, something like that. So it's it'll be kind of a family picture watch.
That's cool. So at what age do you think you'll give it to them?
Whatever age, I trust them not to smash them, I guess.
25.
Okay.
25, Joseph. Well, you've got a bit of a head start on me, so.
I mean, honestly, graduation from, let's say, college, if that's something that's what they want to go for, and I don't want to press that everyone has to go to college thing, but that would be cool. Or whatever their, hey, I'm about to enter the adult world thing. Here you go. Like, I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I love that idea, Casey. Some kind of milestone, right? That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, like this watch here was like I was going from being a non-commissioned officer to commissioned officer, and my dad marked that occasion with a watch capable for the things I was going to need.
And I bet that watch is worth more to you than that Rolex you were talking about earlier because of that.
Without question.
Oh, 100%. And this watch is way too big for me, but I will still wear this over my old G-Shock.
Yeah. Oh, come on, man. Yeah, the sentimental value of that alone, and that'll be one that you'll pass down, and that'll go through generations. So, I mean, this idea, the idea that like, if we can get broad, that as a society we've lost certain levels and really big ways to demark lifestyle changes, and so. For a lot of people, the idea of a watch is one of those things. Like, I'll purchase a watch for a ceremony. I'll purchase a watch for a large world event, large life event, large whatever. For your kids, the fact that you've got a birth year watch for them that will go on, that's killer. That's killer.
Yeah,
I think that's great.
Super awesome.
Yeah, that is.
I'm getting teary just thinking about it.
Yeah, that's cool. And not to make this any part about myself, but again, for everybody that knows and that follows, I made it quite public that I had given my 13-year-old daughter her very first watch for Christmas this year. It wasn't any sort of a milestone event, as it just was I feel like I'm ready to pass the knowledge down to her. And I only say that because when I get something new, she notices it. She's at the point where she notices when something is new in my watch box. And half the time, I don't remember what's in my watch box. And for, a 13-year-old girl to come and say, oh, wow, that's new. What's this one? And I like that. And that's really cool. And I like the way the hands look on that. So she's starting to pick it up.
Okay.
But what's cool is she probably gives a damn because that's dad doing it. And that's kind of a cool aspect.
There's that aspect of it, too. But now here's my question, though, Mike. Have you tried no, it's a new strap thing on her.
Yeah.
I did not have to because if you remember my Seiko Comex,
Uh-huh.
so that watch originally started on this sailcloth strap when I first built it. This was a strap on there. Then I had bought the No Time to Die NATO, and I had put it on that watch. It was sitting on the counter. She goes, "Oh, that's a new strap." Mind blown. So that's why I say it's. I think now is the right time to get her started on that, and she, as you saw in the videos, I mean, appreciates it to no end and loves wearing it. So
that video was awesome without question.
That was a good video.
It
Absolutely.
really was.
So
But that it's a new strap thing would not have worked on my wife for the Rolex, because she would have run out and been like, "What the? I know goddamn well."
I get a lot of mileage out of the new strap thing. I'm just saying. So
Amen.
let's see. So Mike, where can we find ourselves here?
So again, my name is Mike, as Joe just pointed out. I am on Instagram at 120 clicks, one word, all spelled out, 120 clicks. Joe?
I am Watch Taylor Youth, and you can find me on Instagram and a variety of other spaces. KC?
I am time_hacks1636.
But just to piggyback on that, we are doing some what we're calling spring bar shorts now. So little 3 to 5 minute clips. Joe's done one, KC's done one. I've yet to do one.
Yeah, I've got 2 out, and I'm calling them Thursday Watch Thoughts.
It's a nice,
So, yeah,
nice
so-
little look.
We post those up on the show Instagram, which is what, Joe?
The show Instagram is the Spring Bar Podcast, at the Spring Bar Podcast, and you can hashtag us at any time. We would love to see your drink shots and watch shots or any other musings that you may have. And then JP, as our guest, how can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm JP on Instagram as at Ghost and Crown. So that's Ghost and Crown, all spelled out, one word, no other special characters. Or you can email us at ghostandcrown@gmail.com.
Fantastic.
And you don't have the website yet, but it is on the horizon.
It is on the horizon. It is under construction and should be up in just a couple months, and then we'll be able to start setting up consultations there.
All right. So
follow,
then
follow him on Instagram. I'm sure it'll be there at some point.
Sure will.
Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. Go follow JP. He's got some really cool stuff. Go check out some of the things that we were talking about today. When you get that website up and running, let us know. Let us know what that the address is for that, and we'll see if we can't drive some people your way as well.
Also, I've got a watch meetup sometime in February. The Chrono Group in Orange County, OC Chrono, will be having a meetup probably at Bindi Jewelers. So those of you that are in the greater Southern California area, do take a look, follow the Chrono Group, follow OC Chrono, and we will be able to get you some information, and you'll be able to meet up with people just like us who care about watches. We know the difference between a Bakelite bezel and solid end lugs. We are your people. Come, join us. It's fun here. We have punch.
Well, all right, guys. You don't have to go home, but you damn well can't stay here. Thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you guys next time on the Spring Bar Podcast.
Cheers.
Thanks, y'all.